Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I am more than aware that I spend 80% of my time writing articles, staring into a screen, recording podcasts while staring at a screen, editing podcasts looking at a screen, or having a VR headset strapped to my head when I'm having a bit of downtime. So when I read about a new app which promises to deliver healthier screen time in the blink of an eye, and doing that by personalising screen experiences to improve attention, reduce stress, while revealing a few things about you that you probably didn't know, all using AI, I felt compelled to find out more. So today's guest is Hans Bend from Breathing.ai, and I've invited him on the podcast to talk about all this and his story and much more. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York, where Hans Bend from Breathing.ai is waiting to speak with us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Hans Bend. I'm the founder and CEO of Breathing.ai, a digital health startup. We're providing relaxing screen experiences to improve performance and reduce stress. So we also want screen time. I'm also a meditation teacher, a lifelong artist, published researcher and inventor. And yeah, I had a lot of depression and anxiety, resolved that with a lot of mindfulness and breath work. And that inspired me to help other people to feel healthier and happier. And here I am. So.
Love that. And I've got to ask, I've got to dig a little bit deeper and find out more about your origin story. Where did your passion for technology come from, and what put these worlds to collide for you, really, with healthcare, mindfulness and technology? How did all that collide?
Yeah, it was about 8 years ago when I was sometimes working with tech as an artist and as a researcher, but I was for a neuroscience art tech project, actually neuroscience art project at the University of Oregon, and we studied how visual stimuli impact the human brain. And then also we studied different meditation techniques. And that kind of merged then. So it was then the question, there's a lot of insights in what people like as visuals and then meditation practices. So how can we create an experience for people? And so we started to create the first virtual reality biofeedback program. It was called Mind and Metaverse, actually. It was like years ago. Now the Metaverse is a big company there, or like another term. And and then we had this experience, and it was really well received. People were in virtual reality and we're seeing their heart rate in virtual reality. And then we did another one with breathing patterns, and then you can see how your breathing patterns changes when you do different meditation techniques or go through a gamified experience. And it was so fascinating to see how technology, especially like bioadaptive technology, can inspire people, help them feel better, and then, relax more. And I saw a lot of potential then to scale things, scale experiences that improve people's lives. So I see technology more as it's like a holistic thing. It's like an extension of human knowledge, and it's like a tool. So it's like deeply human. And I'm always like striving, how can we make that more human? How can we integrate more sensory experiences and make technology centered around well-being, essentially?
Love that. And of course, it was that path that led you to working with your mentor friend. I think his name was Wim the Iceman Hoff since 2015 to develop pioneering AR feedback around projects that inspired Breathing.ai and your technology there. And it sounds like there's a great story there too. So can I ask that you share that with the listeners?
Oh yeah, I did a lot of different meditation techniques and intense yoga, but I always had to do so much practice. And then I did Wim's practice. Like I discovered it, I don't know, also around like that time, 8 years ago or so. And back then he started to get a little bit worldwide recognition. And then it just helped me so much, just this breath work. Just taking sometimes a deep breath and then doing his breathing technique obviously is very intense and so made me feel so much more alive. And then they were trying to do a US tour, and it was in 2014, 15. So I got in contact with his family and him and said, can I organize something in New York? And then I organized their first workshop in New York. And that was really well received. It was 2015, I think. Yeah. And the people flew in from all over the world. Vim and I became friends. Then I went to Europe, to Poland with him to film in there. That was 2017 as well. His home then also in the Netherlands. And then he was like in a barrel filled with ice cubes. And we filmed in there in like, what was it, like 30 minutes or something like that, or 10 minutes. He was in that ice barrel, like singing, and it's on YouTube for free. You can see him like in this, this like ice cubes making these noises, and he's just there singing and enjoying being submerged in shorts in the ice cubes. Then we were up in Poland on the mountain where we were there in shorts and filmed it in 360. And then we transferred those over into virtual reality experience. We did an augmented reality experience. We never commercialized those, so some of them are visible online, searchable. We could still do that to make that more accessible for people. But yeah, we did like an augmented reality experience where you could put on the augmented reality glasses, and then you would see Vim floating in front of you, and could be in your living room or somewhere, and as this like virtual avatar, and then you would see your heart rate detected. So you could see when Vim is guiding then the breathing technique, how your heart rate is changing when you are doing the breathing techniques. And we had a panda, I think, like a virtual panda. So you would see Vim and a virtual panda next to each other. And then the panda's belly would expand with your belly. So it was really fun and gamified. And yeah, that was like 2017, 18. And then I started my startup. And so I just connected Vim with Emmy award-winning journalist who ended up doing like a PBS story, I think, this year now or so. So I'm very excited for that. And I think he's a wonderful, caring person. And I think he really pioneered like breath work globally and made it way more accessible and approachable for people. And not the ice cube and the cold showers are not for everybody, but I can always highly recommend them. People who are familiar with his practice, it's not all of us can be in ice cubes for hours, but I don't think that's necessary. But cold shower here and there is really helpful. And a deep breath is always helpful.
Absolutely, 100% with you on that. And when I was doing a bit of research on you guys, I quickly learned that Breathing.ai develops patented machine learning technologies to adapt and personalize screens and audio interactions to each user. And I'm quite fascinated by this because I've recently picked up Oculus Quest. So I'm getting more and more into these kind of virtual experiences as well and exploring the different things you can do with that. But can you tell me a little bit more, or tell the listeners a little bit more about what Breathing.ai is and what makes it different from other solutions out there?
Yeah, we used virtual reality, I think 6-7 years ago there, and then for 5 years or so I was using that and use a VR and made it integrated to biofeedback, which I still think is very underutilized in the industry. I never personally then liked putting like a screen in front of people's faces and disconnected from reality. So what we're doing with Breathing AI, we're making the screen time we have already, it's unfortunately 11, 12 hours per day, making that more relaxing. So while you're looking at your screen, what if there would be a color filter, or there would be like a changing background sound that would calm you the most? So that's what we have. We have a Chrome extension out right now, and you simply install it, and then it runs while you're on your screen and gives you break reminders and just simple little 30 seconds to 2 minutes or 20 seconds to 2 minutes exercises that just reminds you to relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, blink your eyes. All these simple things we were forgetting during the day. And then also offering a color filter personalized to what color calms each user the most. And soothing background sounds, we're also integrating right now vital sign detection. So using the webcam and machine learning to analyze what somebody's heart rate is, what somebody's breathing patterns are, and then, how to offer the most calming color. So somebody has a calmer heart rate and a deeper breathing pattern. That's also our patented personalization, and just very simplifying and soothing the screen experiences we have is really at the core of what we're building. And I think there's a infinite potential because unfortunately we have so much technological interactions. We're spending more time with our devices than with our loved ones, most of us. How can we make that more bioadaptive and centered around well-being? And I think that then you don't need to, if you get off your screen today for work, and then you could do another VR experience, it means you're adding more screen time to your life instead of making that screen time you have, integrating habits there that help you feel better. So when you get off, you already feel much more relaxed and you can spend more time with your loved ones or nature or doing fun things than spending it more with more technology. So that's what we're building. And we just launched our first, the extension. It's got like over 600 users now, really quick globally. I'm very excited about that. It's my first real commercial product, and seeing people use it all over the world and seeing they use it for a good amount of time per day. But I know when they use it, it's like integrated into a daily screen time. So we're not, adding anything to their experience. And then we just finished our first pilot with a large software development company, showed like over 50% reduced symptoms in terms of mental exhaustion, eye strain, and so on. People felt more energized after using it for a few months, or just actually like after a few weeks, they reported that. And that's very motivating. And starting a few new other pilots and expanding our team. So it's been very exciting. But all of this is coming really out of the work with Vim, also with researchers. We're still working with multiple research institutions to make everything very accurate, science driven, always double checking everything. And we don't use any facial recognition. We don't store identifiable information. So when we're using the webcam and machine learning, we're not knowing who you are. We just analyze the video stream. We don't analyze anything else except for a small portion of the skin of the forehead and shoulder movement. So we don't know who that is. We don't know what they're doing. It's just really to analyze how they're breathing and what their heart rate is. So it's very safe, we're very transparent in what we're building. We're not selling out anybody's data. The trust is, the well-being is of the user is at the core of what we're doing. And that just feels very good to develop a company like this, which I think was impossible a few years ago, because everything was so profit driven and you couldn't really build something around well-being. And so I'm very excited and grateful to be able to do this these days, despite unfortunately a lot of screen time and the pandemic and the stress levels we have in the world. But it feels good to be able to contribute something.
Yeah, and it's so important right now. The world has changed so much in 2 years. And I think most people listening will be focusing more on their mental health and well-being now. And that can only be a great thing. And for any techies listening, I did read that Breathing.ai, you use a webcam, machine learning to detect the vital signs, heart rate, respiration, etc., and stress, and then adapt and personalize the screen colors, fonts, and UI to the well-being of the user. And obviously, there's a lot of technology going on there for the user. It'll be seamless. But can you tell me a little bit more about the tech behind Breathing.ai that makes all that possible?
Yeah, so we're right now, it's a simple Chrome extension. So you just go to Chrome Store and any Chromium-based browser, it works. So it's over 80% of the browsers are usually Chromium-based. So Brave, Chrome, Opera, Edge. And then you just log in, choose your colors, and then it provides you color filter. You can select out of 60, 70 breaks there. We also making them in Spanish right now. We're adding Spanish speaking ones. And so that's like a very simple solution. And then soothing background sounds as well. And so you get like that integrated into your browser experience. And then we're also using machine learning to personalize it. So we're learning like what kind of breaks, what kind of colors are most soothing for each user. And then we're adding the vital sign detection. So we just simply using the webcam, so basically the video stream and machine learning to analyze what somebody's heart rate is, what breathing patterns. And we only, need a small portion of the skin, so we don't take identifiable information. And that personalization, like learning what kind of colors, what kind of breaks, what kind of contrast levels, and so on, fonts would help each user to feel better. That's really what we're building out more and more. So the future of our technologies will be that patented personalization to learn what is the best tech experience for each user. And then we're expanding that to audio or olfactory devices, which is also covered in our IP. And if you talk to a voice assistant right now, you can only choose multiple voices that are given to you as options. But what if that will be a voice that is created to you around your well-being? So in the moment, you would talk with a voice assistant that has the most soothing voice for you. So that's also what our IP covers, like that in real time, that personalization for audio. For olfactory, I'm a huge fan of Sense in the future. I believe in our cars, IoT, Internet of Things, all of those experiences we have, and there's always technology involved. How can we make that the most soothing, the most personalized? You might wake up in a few years and our technology is integrated in like a scent device you have, right? So there's like a smell, a scent coming out in the morning in your bedroom, and that is uplifting for you. So it's the most, for you, maybe it's like a peppermintish smell. For somebody else, it might be like a cinnamon smell or something that activates you in the morning so you feel really good. And to start the day, when you come home at work, maybe it's something that soothes you, like lavender or so. So we would learn what kind of scent would get your heart rate up when needed, or would calm you when it's needed. And that's the future of what we're building. So right now it's a Chrome extension that focuses on the screen, but we have a whole vision of how can we make all kinds of tech interactions we have personalized and really centered around what makes each human feel better with using those.
I will definitely be checking it out at the end of this podcast. I can promise you that. And if we look beyond that, though, how are all these pieces fitting together from technological projects with cross-disciplinary collaborations with things like researchers and labs, etc.? Can you expand on that too?
Yeah, right now we're working with the Chant Lab at Boston University, with the NSSR lab. That's like focused on stress detection using also eye movements. Then the NSSR lab, which is the perception lab at the New School in New York. We're working with the Institute for Experiential AI at Northeastern, at the Wu Institute. So we're always expanding our collaborations to really make everything, as accurate as possible. And very excited to make sure that we're not only doing the research and the pilots within our company and collaborating with other companies, but making sure we're working with top research labs and really making sure that everything is just as good as it could be. And it also helps our team to not have the burden of doing those studies ourselves, but always in collaboration. I'll probably work with a few hundred of researchers the past few years. But now one of our advisors is Ray Winslow, a very experienced expert in computational medicine. He's almost really just like pioneering the field of computational medicine a few decades ago. And work with Michael Posner, who's a National Medal of Science winner, probably one of the most cited psychology researcher, I think, of the 20th century, or one of them. And so very excited that we were able to make this just as accurate and as science-driven as possible. And I think that's makes our life easier, I feel. Even it's a lot of work sometimes to get those science grants, to get those studies being written up and stuff. But in the end, it's worth it, because it helps the users to trust our devices and our technologies, and making sure that it's centered around their well-being and not around profit, first of all.
For people listening all over the world that are hearing about you for the very first time today, a lot will be checking out the Chrome extension and stuff, but just to bring to life everything that we've talked about here, are there any use cases that you can share of the kind of work that you're doing? And I appreciate you probably can't mention any names, but I'm curious if there is anything else you can share on that.
Yeah, right now we finished up a pilot with a large software development company, and it was really interesting to see that people were engaging with it like 5 times more than with normal employee wellness programs. Usually employee wellness programs are like, they have a 1% or so a retention rate. It's very low, because if you work on your screens, then the employer asks you like, hey, use another meditation app in addition to that, or you go to this yoga class. And so a lot of employees are not doing that. I personally guided meditation in jails and schools, but also at Google headquarters in New York, at WeWork headquarters for many years here in New York. And now also remotely sometimes when I had time, but it's hard to get everybody motivated. So we're offering this especially for employees and employers to help their employees feel better and to be then more productive. A lot of I'm not sure how it is globally, but here in the US, we had record numbers of people resigning, mostly due to workplace stress. 4.5, I think last month alone, 4.5 million. It's really an important industry sector, like that kind of employee wellness. And we have over 25% retention rate, which is, unheard of in the industry. Over the last few years, I always thought, if we have more users, if we have 500 users, it will go down. Actually, it went up. So very excited about that because our solution is integrated, and it accompanies, it's like a guide. It accompanies the employees, the screen user, while they're on their screen, while they're using their browser. And the color filters are really fun also to see how people's heart rate is changing, their breathing patterns is changing. We just did a demo here in New York at a Future of Work panel event by 28 muses. That was really like everybody in the audience stayed, and they 45 minutes or an hour in the middle of the workday in New York just to try out the vital sign detection. What are the most calming colors for each of them? And I think that there's a lot of interest of people to help that have tech improve their well-being. But it's all comes out of like hard work in VR, in AR, pioneering those biofeedback projects, which were very well received. We won an award at Stanford at AAAI conference in 2016. We published another paper on our adaptive interfaces last year at A&M University, and with Columbia University. We're doing a pilot right now with Columbia University with students to also see how their well-being can improve using our Chrome extension and our adaptive interfaces. So we're really looking like it very holistically, not just like workplace stress, but also for students, maybe in schools. It's almost like whatever we are using in terms of tech is like a black and white of TV, I think. Nothing is really adaptive to our well-being. And the future of tech, of screens, of audio is really personalizing it to each user. So when I think of like the university settings, or when we're learning, when we're reading, it's oftentimes black letters on white background, but that's not the most calming or the most best to memorize it for each human. There's like studies that are supporting if you change the fonts, if you have a different color, that would help some humans to memorize things better. So I think the future of education, also of reading, is to really have a personal color, and then to help that reader to experience a better reading experience. And so I see there's a lot of potential also in the educational realm, because it's a one design fits all solution. We're all reading with one font, oftentimes, or with one font color on white background. And now there's like grayscale sometimes, or dark mode or so. So that's an improvement, but it's not personalized to each student or each reader and each human. And that's really where I see the potential for this. And it's very exciting to see the little steps we're making in terms of the machine learning, the personalization, but are really big steps because it hasn't been done before. And really seeing how it helps people feel better is just so gratifying.
And it really feels like there's a bit of a movement developing at the moment. You mentioned the Great Resignation there. There's also the future of work. And I think, as I said at the very beginning, people are taking mental health and well-being so much more seriously now. So I'm curious, what kind of feedback have you received from your users and indeed others in the industry? Do you get to hear any stories?
Yeah, no, it's like a lot of times people post after they did in-person demos, because right now the vital sign detection is in person. We might have it up actually by the end of January in our Chrome extension as well. And there's like a video also with self-reports from a few years ago, an in-person demo. It's just so interesting. I remember one story. There's a CEO of another tech company, very highly critical, also meditation teacher of all kinds of applications. His heart rate was 18 heartbeats lower when he had like a grayscale. And he just had our demo with 5-6 different colors. And then his heart rate was detected using the webcam. So he said, wow, if I use a gray, my heart rate is so much calmer. And like the most heart rate increasing was bright green. And then he said, I just changed my grayscale and my phone to grayscale a few months ago. His iPhone back then. So you think about it, if he was texting with somebody who has an Android on iPhones, then you have the bright green color. Yeah. So his heart rate was always increasing when he was texting with somebody with an Android. Now with grayscale, like he would like text in the most calm way to anybody, like iPhone user or Android. So I think there's also like color psychology behind a lot of branding, of course, like orange, red is oftentimes like generally been perceived, to be more like for hunger and like appetite. So a lot of food companies have that. Blue is more, calming, trusting, but it doesn't work for all. Not all humans respond to the same type of colors the same way. And so there's a lot of potential for that. Like some companies, tech companies, intentionally use like blue, gray for calming, bright green, more for activation, for heart rate increase and attention seeking. And so there's a lot of, there's colorblind people. So there's so much potential for that. And there's so many anecdotes I have on and so fascinating anecdotes where you think pink is maybe not the most calming, but some people, I remember one user, she said, oh, it detected pink as my most calming. That makes sense. I always use pink when I meditate, when I calm down, I always visualize pink. And then somebody else, like very critical investor, he was like, oh, blue. Yeah, that makes sense. I painted my bedroom in blue. And that you always use a specific blue color for all background applications on my desktop. I remember that investor actually then said, what are you? Are you a startup? Are you an LLC? And that was 2018. It was before I started my company. And then I was like, what is that? Like, what? and from research, and I just showed this application, this in-person demo there with the vital sign detection. We did the first prototype at MIT. And then I thought, maybe I should start a startup and make this as scalable as possible because it resonates with people. And that's how Breathing AI was born on.
Oh man, what an amazing story. Absolutely love that. And obviously, we're here at the beginning of a new year in 2022. What's next for Breathing AI? Are you going to continue to leverage emerging technologies and what's going to be your big focus this year?
Yeah, our focus is really to make sure that we will offer it to as many companies as possible to make it scalable so their employees can feel better because, so many employees are stressed and they have to use the screen so much more because this remote and hybrid work is not going to go away. So we're trying to make that, offer it as much as possible. And trying to maybe we can get to a few hundreds of thousands of users. Right now we're about like around 1,000 users. Can we get it to a few millions users and improve our product? Can we offer it for all browsers or operating systems? Can we, integrate it into audio too? We have a large research and development with the research institutions I mentioned earlier coming up right now. So it's going to be an interesting year for us with a lot of technical projects and research on the horizon and going to market now. And so it's really exciting for us. So if anybody's interested in this technology and likes to explore it, we're always expanding. We're always happy to chat, collaborate, partner up. We're always fundraising too. And please reach out.
Started the podcast today talking about your origin story, and I always like to offer the guest an opportunity to share some of the inspiration that has helped you along the way. So as we come full circle, I want to ask if there's a song, piece of music, movie, or a book that has inspired you or helped you in your career. Is there anything that you'd choose?
I got into this because I was so depressed and anxious for so many years. Remember, I always listened to Radiohead, Kid A, which was like more... I love Radiohead, but I think like a huge inspiration was like obviously like Wim's work, Wim Hof, the Iceman there.
Yeah.
I think he published a few books now in the meantime too. My mom runs a bookstore, so I have an endless list of what kind of books to recommend. But I can just always Wim's books and like anybody, anything on meditation, on deep breathing. There's so many books on like James Nestor right now recently published a book on breath, like a breath work really got me out of depression and anxiety. And it's fascinating to learn like something we're doing a few thousand times, like 23,000 times a day is way too shallow. So we can really improve our well-being by learning how to breathe deeper. And there's so many, fascinating statistics on that. Reading those books on breathing, I think there are really good ones coming out these days or just came out. So I highly recommend those. Wish they would have been there 8-10 years ago when I started this type of stuff, but I think they're much more easy discoverable and findable.
And for anyone listening that wants to find out more information about anything we talked about today, download the Chrome extension or contact your team if you've got any questions. Where's the best starting point for everything you do?
Yeah, I think downloading the extension, please. Somebody likes it, please leave us a good review on the Chrome store there. That always brings a smile and motivation to our team. My email is just Hannes@breathing.ai. Always happy to chat. Sometimes when in the middle of a deadline, I'm a little bit delayed on responses, but we're also on LinkedIn with our company and on social media and stuff. We always publish a lot on those social media accounts, little tips for what helps our team, what in general helps to feel better. So following there, I think we share a lot there and always keep people informed. We have a blog on our website too, where we publish information and stuff. Yeah, please always reach out to us, get in contact, share anything. And thanks so much for having me. It's really great that you having a tech podcast, like focusing on well-being, promoting digital health companies. It's so nice of you, and I'm really excited to be here.
No, it's great to have you here. And one of the things that really stands out for me is Breathing AI. How you're using webcam, machine learning, etc., to detect vital signs, heart rate, respiration, and stress, and adapting and personalizing screen colors, the well-being of the user, etc., but with privacy in mind first. And it's so refreshing to hear that, especially in the tech industry. And also, you've mentioned working with schools and prisons and employee wellness. And I think it's something that affects everyone. So I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to come on here and share your story. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much for having me, and wishing everybody to be healthy and happy in 2022 and beyond. And always trying to, and with a deep breath and a smile, I recommend.
So Breathing AI develops a patented machine learning technology to adapt and personalize screens and audio interactions to every single user. It's nice and easy to install. It won't cost you anything. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Good, bad. I want to hear it all. Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. And a big thank you to John White for introducing me to Hans, who, if there is anyone from episode 1 still listening, John White was my very first guest. He's been a long-time friend and inspiration. So a big thank you to John for taking the time to introduce me to Hans too. But that's it for today's episode. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.